I want to thank all of you for taking, taking time out of your evenings to come and talk about the future of what is one of our great community institutions in Columbus in the North Market. My name is Steve Shoney. I am the Development Director for the city. I'm here with Rick Wolf, who is the Executive Director of the North Market. What we want to do tonight is we want to hear from all of you about what you want to see. This is being recorded this evening so that as we review proposals that come in, we have a record of everybody's comments orally. Also, this is something that we're going to make available to folks who want to propose on this opportunity so that they can see what it is that the community wants and they can hear from you. If not directly in person, they can at least see what you said via video and the record that we're going to make. So our format for tonight is I want to make a few introductory comments. Rick's going to say a few introductory comments. And then we have a number of stations around the room where we've got some key questions that we want you to respond to about the future of the market. And then when we're done with that, Rick and I will sit up here for a while and take your questions. What I'd ask of you is that so that we can be most effective both in terms of capturing your ideas and frankly using everybody's time, the idea phase and the comment phase, we'd really like to be there. The question phase is what we want when we come back. So let me set the stage on a couple things. First of all, I do want to thank Rick for his cooperation on this and Rick's board for their cooperation. I want to thank my team who've worked a lot on this. And I also want to take the time to recognize Councilmember Stinziano, who's in the back of the room. And Councilmember Liz Brown will be here, we hope, shortly. They've been really helpful to me in terms of helping us think about how to run this process and think about how to ensure that we've got the most input from the community that we can have. So I do want to recognize the council members for their help on this. Why are we doing this? Why on earth are we messing with the North Market, right? That's one question that everybody has. The foundation of the North Market financially is the parking lot. What you may not realize is that the way the North Market operates is entirely dependent upon that parking lot. So the city owns the property that the North Market sits on, and the city owns the building. We lease it to the North Market Development Authority for a very, very, very nominal fee. And they get the revenue off the parking lot. And that is what supports the operations of the market. So essentially what we've been doing for the last 20 years, almost exactly 20 years, right?
20 years.
Is using the ground that the market sits on in one way to support the market. What we're trying to figure out is if that's still the best way to support the market. And the best way to gauge what the real estate is worth is to go out to the real estate market and get proposals on what people will do with that land to support the market. So we have really three goals and 4 evaluation points as we go into this RFP process. The goals are improve the market's physical space. Improve the space in which the market has to operate. Number 2, improve the market financially. Number 3, improve the neighborhood. And so those are our 3 goals. The 4th kind of evaluation criteria in a broad sense that we're going to use is maintenance of operations of the market throughout the construction process. We cannot have a market that goes dark that we have to restart. That is how we're looking at this process. If we do not have proposals that meet those 4 criteria, the situation will essentially stay the same. We have a long-term lease with the market right now that is signed and is in place and doesn't need to be changed. What we're trying to do is, can we find a way to make the market more effective as a place for residents and a place for visitors to get their provisions? Can we make it more effective as an incubator for small business, particularly in the food sector? And can we use it as a way to enhance the neighborhood? That's what we're trying to do. I'm really looking forward to the ideas and the priorities that we get from you tonight, so that as we go into this process, we can make a better decision. I'm going to turn it over to Rick. There's a reason why Rick is on stage with me and doing this with me, is because we are moving in lockstep. While it is the city's land, and the city holds title to the land, and if you go to the auditor's site, it says City of Columbus, we know that we can't make a decision about disposing of this land without including the market. And so for the first time that anybody at the city knows about, and I've asked Mr. Dorian, and he doesn't know about a time we've done this, so that means it's never been done before. We are actually having a tenant of a city property sit on the review committee that is going to make a decision about what we do with the property. It's that important to us. So when we sit down to go through the proposals, Rick and his board chair will be full members of the committee that do that evaluation. So that this is not a situation where the city is going to be able to, a sort of, if you will, a cabal of bureaucrats will sit in a smoke-filled room, except we can't smoke anymore in buildings. So we won't be sitting behind closed doors making these decisions without input from the market and the markets board. So I'm really excited to have Rick here with me. Rick, I don't know if you want to make some introductory comments.
Sure, I'll be brief so we can get to the great ideas. I'm sure we're going to get a lot tonight. I left Columbus. I grew up in Columbus, and I left in 1988, so I grew up with the Quonset hut. I came back 5 years ago, and there was a new market. Same footprint, but a whole new, much better building from my memory. And 3 years I've had this job, and it's a great honor to have this job, I will tell you that. We've been here 140 years on that footprint. And this is the third building we've been in. The first one burned down in 1948. Moved into a temporary Quonset hut, which lasted from 1948 to 1995. That market was at risk when a lot of things were starting to happen in downtown Columbus. A great administration, the city of Columbus stepped in and said, we need to save the last remaining, and I'm sure all of you here probably know that. There were 4 public markets. We are the last standing. So there are no guarantees in the public market world. But I guess my point being is this is our guarantee. This is really something that can enhance what we already do. It enhances, to me, the most important word. Our mission is to incubate and support local independent businesses, which I think we do a great job of. And this will only allow us to fulfill our mission better and, like I said, keep us there another 140 years. So thanks for being here.
All right, Rick was a little quicker than I expected.
Oh, I can keep going, but
I ran to the back of the room to get something. So what we're going to do next is Ashley Sen's going to come up and explain more fully what we're going to do next. But we've got a series of easels set up around the room, a couple tables. For those of you who are a little more shy, for lack of a better term, if you want, or you just simply have something you want to get down in writing, we do have in the back of the room these forms where you can sign in, get us your information, put your comments in writing if you want. You can email me, you can email Ashley. We will document all of the information, and I'm going to turn it over to Ashley to talk about what we're doing next.
We want to hear the public's ideas on the best way to enhance the North Market. So we've got 3 different stations set up, and each one of them has just kind of an aspirational question that we're looking for your answers for. We're going to write them down so that you can see what other people's feedback is, and we just want this to be a jumping off point for a broader discussion. Like Director Shoney said, if you don't feel comfortable asking a question or putting your comment up on the big board, we totally understand. We've got sign-in sheets where you can put your name and your email address. You can leave us your comments, and then you can also check a box if you would like to continue to receive email updates about this project. So, all right, let's get started. Thank you.
So get up, go back to the tables, look at the questions, and get us your comments. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Jeff Bauer.
Plus, like enhanced parking or.
Well, I think just for the transition period when the buildings go on, figure out some way for parking. If there's a way to reach out to those
Parking
flat
during the
lots.
transit.
You know, there could be bookstores and retail. You know, if you're going to bring people down there to live.
We don't own the land.
Oh, I know that. I know that, but I'm saying if a developer's looking at it.
What's the best way to enhance the North Market? If anybody else has any other feedback, we'd love to hear it.
I would recommend more parking and access for more bicycles, scooters, and motorcycles, either alongside the market or even inside that surface parking lot right now.
Keep kids entertained because
Okay.
so many of the vendors are.
Yeah.
I know.
Also thinking broadly about Park Street. What does Park Street look like in the future? But that idea of having some public space there is really important.
Thank you, everybody. I got to listen in on some of the discussions. They were really, I thought, very helpful. I'm going to ask the folks who were scribing for us to come up and or I'll actually go back to them, and we'll do a quick little report out, and then we'll do some Q&A. So I'm going to start with Mark.
Thanks. I'm Mark Lundeen with the city. Our question over here was, how can this project best benefit the neighborhood? Talked a little bit about increasing parking. That was one comment. Talked about preserving and enhancing the outdoor spaces of the market, not just for farmers markets, but as a real community gathering point. There was discussions about plazas, kind of adjacent or somewhere in close to the market so that could be used more. Making it an all-day neighborhood was a big theme. So, you know, people living there and it being used throughout the day. So trying to balance that out. Looking at enhancing some of the archaeological features of the site. So there was, you know, a significant amount of history with the archaeological features of the market, and how can you kind of inform people of that and display that in a visual way. And then also talked a lot about, you know, utilizing lands around it. So to the west of the market, you know, some of the surface parking lots that exist over there, how do you better connect the market to Goodale Park in specific, I think was a focus of the group. So those were kind of the overall highlights from the connecting the neighborhood side.
All right, and we're going to correct a faux pas that we just did and actually not make you all turn around in your seats for Ashley and Marissa. And I can do many things, including act as an easel. So here you go.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ashley Sen with the city. My question was, what's the best way to enhance the North Market? And people had a lot of really great ideas. Some we had heard before, and some came out of left field and I think are really interesting. One of the first couple of comments were about using the North Market redevelopment as a way to spur revitalization of the broader North Market district, and to try to find ways to have more 24/7 activity. Somebody said something about underground parking with an open public plaza next to it. Thank you. More special events, more groceries, and then with the special events, specifically races, which came up a couple of times, were more accessibility in and out of the market parking lot and the market district more broadly. And more transit options, so if you want to visit the North Market and you don't necessarily want to drive. A bigger footprint, think bigger, what we can do to enhance the market, and more entertainment for children. And then the last one was a shared kitchen and commissary for people to use. So they're great ideas. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marissa. I'm with the North Market. A lot of our answers were kind of the same, and they echoed many things that everybody else kind of just spoke about. So our question was, what would inspire you to visit North Market more often? Traffic pattern seems to be a big deal right now, especially not only with cars, but also pedestrian accessibility. People would like more information on how they can walk to the North Market, but they would also like it to be safer walking around North Market. So that came up fairly frequently from a number of you. Also, more volume, more merchants, which included traditional vendors, so more produce, more fish, more meat, and fresh merchants. Accessibility during races and special events also came up. It is kind of difficult to get to the market during those things, so that also came up. Protecting the fresh merchants and the farmers market, expanding the farmers market would be great. Since the sensitivity to small business owners regarding the hours that the market is open. A green space area, parking during the transition will help people come to the market during that time when we are possibly undergoing renovations. Space for other forms of transportation, bikes, scooters, etc. More diverse and innovative merchants. Also another incubation kitchen for classes, catering separate from the main market floor with all the rest of the merchants, planning pathways for pedestrian traffic, again came up. Underground parking with a plaza above was also mentioned, and it's very important to maintain a unique character. Everyone thought that the market has a great character, so everyone wants that to remain and maybe even be enhanced.
So, thank you very much. As Ashley and Mark and Marissa said, and first of all, thank you to them for doing that. Let's give them a round of applause. That I think that was very helpful for me, and I think it's really going to be helpful for those who are going to propose on this project to really understand what's important to you, the stakeholders that use the market and really care about its future. So I'm going to take questions here in a minute. I know one of the questions is going to be timeline, and I should have covered that in my opening comments, and I'm looking around. Here it is for our timeline. I think this was on one of the tables in the back too. But we issued the RFP, request for proposals, on October 24th. Tonight's our public meeting. We're going to have a meeting targeted toward potential bidders on the 9th, where they will have the opportunity to come in and ask us technical questions about this proposal. The deadline for submittal is November 21st for the first phase. After we get that first round of proposals in, we will review them as a committee and down select to probably 2 finalists. We will spend essentially December and January working with those 2 finalists to fully vet and really understand those proposals, with the objective of having them submit their final phase 2 proposals at the end of January, and then spend February making a decision. So that's the decision-making timeline for those of you who aren't familiar with construction projects, just to give you a rough sense of what that means. After that, pretty much you can assume that 2017 is going to be a planning and design year. 2018 would then be your primary construction year, probably with some of the finished construction going into 2019. If you're wondering kind of what does it really mean in terms of time frame. I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to say before we got started with questions. I do want to do one more set of acknowledgments, and that is to the members of the North Market Board who are here tonight. I think we have at least 5 in the room. If you're a member of the North Market Board, could you kindly raise your hand? So, and yeah. So I'm going to stop talking, and let you folks ask questions. So you got to speak into the mic so that we can record it, and raise your hand if you got a question.
As I understand it, financial basis for the market is one of the concerns, and I'd like to say that I consider the North Market an incredible community resource, and since the city is able to give revenue from the casino tax to support the arena, I think the city might consider that the North Market, the farmers market where the community comes together, is worth supporting.
Thank you. Who else? Yes, sir.
With the change in the North Market and the improvement, from what I heard a while back, there's supposed to be a hotel or something developed in the parking lot. Is that still in the plans? Okay, if so, what's going to happen to the parking?
Yeah, so I mean, this is the fundamental question, and this is what we're looking for proposals for. My best guess as to the kinds of proposals that we'll see is some kind of a plaza between a new structure. The new structure will include parking, and then probably not hotel, although that is a possibility, but some combination of residential and office integrated into that. But I don't know. This is why we're putting it out there to see what kind of creative ideas other people have. There's a perception, and I'll just hit it head on. There's a perception that we have a preconceived idea of what it is absolutely that we want. And that's just not true. We really are looking for, people to give us great ideas of how they could leverage the market, leverage the neighborhood, and give us something that improves the market physically, improves the market financially, and improves the neighborhood. And if we meet those three criteria, we'll do a deal. If we don't, we won't. And it's that simple. I'll go here first, and then I'll go back to you, ma'am.
As I remarked to the friend in the back there's a certain vagueness to the idea of what the neighborhood is, and whether that includes sort of how far south, north, and so forth. The convention center and the arena are event-driven spaces, and there's a feel to a lot of the businesses around there that of sort of entertainment district. It's physically cut off more and more from the residential neighborhood to the north, and sort of when I mean, we've been in the neighborhood since '93. There was a real tie between the North Market and that residential community. If you define the neighborhood as an entertainment district largely, that tie to the neighborhood, to the people who are cooking, for instance, and have their children there, is going to decline. We are going less and less because it's harder and harder to get there, and there are fewer things for us to get. So being quite clear in the development plans of what the value of residential neighborhood is, rather than the business district, is really important.
Yeah, that's a really insightful comment. A couple responses from my perspective. In one sense, we've made the connection easier. We've done things like the CAP. You continue to see other development. But you're right, that has all been commercial development. It has not been residential development to tie those things together. We can only do so much of, we can use this project to, inspire is not the right word, make it more viable, to see more kind of residential development around that, and that's part of the plan. In doing our homework on this, we've looked at, okay, what does the rest of the neighborhood potentially look like as it develops over the coming years? And if you look at the trends all around us, it really is heavily toward residential development. So I think you have to think about it both in terms of this project and everything else that goes around it. We're hopeful that you'll really see primarily residential development, particularly when you look kind of Park Street and west to the old Hamilton Parker lands. That's what makes sense there. We don't own it. I can't say what's going to happen there. But when you look at the market and the market trends, that's really going to be the tendency, I think, for that. But your comment is well said. I think the other thing that I first thought of when you started talking, maybe a better word than neighborhood is community. I think we need to start using both, because I think there's a subtlety there that's important.
Yeah, I have been a North Market shopper since I moved to Columbus in 1995. And I love the market. And I'm terrified that something is going to go wrong, that it's going to go away, and that the merchants get disgusted and leave, especially those that sell perishables, like the chicken Anne Marie and the fish place. And we already lost the best cheese guy ever born. And I'm wondering, why is the schedule so fast? To come up with a proposal so quickly, what is a big hurry? And the other thing, now I forgot what the other thing was, but it's, I think it takes a lot of thinking. It's been harder and harder to get there. People mentioned special events, and whenever there's a special event, it is almost impossible to get there to shop, and that is unfortunate. So parking definitely is an issue, and also on top, the vendors that come in the summer and the fall, I think they add a lot to the North Market, and they certainly should not be forgotten.
So I'm going to let Rick talk first about the mix and sort of the curation that they do, and then I'll talk a little bit about timeline and speed.
So just to give you just sort of overall what's the balance, and balance is the most important thing for a public market, and it is also the most difficult thing at a public market. Balance, the balance of merchants. And I will say that's a struggle that the entire world has, is the balance. And obviously we're speaking about fresh. I'll give you one fact. The merchant mix, as far as fresh, is the exact same as of this week as it has been since the year 2000. We have a new butcher that opened Tuesday. We have a new cheesemonger that just opened a week ago Monday. So from the year 2000 to now, we have the exact same fresh mix. Do I wish we had more? I do. It is the hardest thing to find. Mike, you mentioned the cheese guy. Mike was 70 years old. He missed about 3 days over 28 years of his career. And one was because his father died. That fellow worked, and that's what he did. This is what happens when you look at the mix. For those of you who remember the Quonset hut, there were 3 or 4 butchers. There was 3 or 4 produce. There was 3 poultry. There was 2 or 3 fish. Between going from the Quonset hut to our building, about half of those were lost, quite a few of them. Some due to retirement, some didn't want to go, they didn't like the new hours, they didn't want to move. And then from 95 being in the market to 2000, even more were lost. And those were lean days at the market. And you were there in 95 to 2000, downtown, a different world. And so it's very difficult to maintain that balance. But I am very proud to say, 16 years as of this week, we are back to that same balance. And it's not easy to do. And that is top of list for all of us that work there, and the board, is how to maintain that. every fresh merchant, the new ones that you see in there, the new butcher, the new cheese, there was no application saying, I want to be a butcher. We had to go out and seek people to do those. And produce as well, with all three of those. We had to go out and seek people to do it. I think we did a great job, and they're good merchants. They're independent local businesses like we want. They fit the mold perfectly, and I'm very proud of that. And I do believe, and I've said it, I certainly know what I think is best with this project in front of us. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. He says, in my mind, this is residential and offices. Because all of a sudden we have 1,000 people coming and going that are built in, and we're the amenity. So that means this grocery that everybody downtown always says, we don't have a grocery downtown. We have some that are pretty convenient, and those are competitors, very difficult. It only gets harder and harder for us when a market district opens in Bexley, and a market district opens in Grandview, and so forth, and Lucky's in Clintonville. They're getting very good at what they do. It's difficult for us, when what we do, having small businesses, to keep up with those guys. So I believe that this is an opportunity, and I think probably residential offices is no question the best for us. That I have 1,000 people, we can probably double the fresh merchants because you have the demand sitting in front of you. You had some great points of connecting the community. You're right. We are the only thing open in the daytime in our neighborhood. It is all nightlife. We close, and then it would be great to have things going on all the time. It would be great to have more people living right there. So there is, I do 100% agree, a disconnect that's been over time, and I don't think that's anyone's fault. That's just sort of the nature of business, and some of the things on Park Street are now leaving. A lot of the bars will not be there in the near future. So, I believe truly this is the opportunity that Fresh can survive and prosper by doing this, by having people living and working, and we're their go-to every day.
So, to your question about timing, a couple thoughts on that. One is we have found that when you do these kind of requests for proposals for real estate development, this is about the right amount of timing, because if you leave it out there too long, projects really struggle to get completed because people have to line up their financing, they have to line up, they have to have a fair degree of certainty about what's going to happen. So having some certainty of the process is really important to making sure we get the best proposals. The other thing that I would say is that this is something that we've been sort of preparing for a while. So for while this evaluation period is relatively short, we've been kind of thinking through the implications for a while. So, but I get how it feels like a tight time frame. Yeah, I get it. Other questions? Yeah.
Well, I like what I'm hearing from Rick, but I would like to know a little bit more about hotels, because I know the city's been looking for hotels to put to get larger conventions. Where is that going to happen?
So we have, this is one of the things that we've been doing our homework on, is understanding whether this site makes sense as a hotel site. And it just, the key on a convention for hotels for the convention center district is to get to this magical number of 1,000 rooms that you can book at once. The site's not big enough for it. It's just that simple. So that kind of.
Where else was the city thinking?
There are a couple of places you could look to, and it's real. So the city is not responsible for doing the hotel development. It's the hotel owners and those kind. You could do expansions of a couple of hotels. You could do a couple other things. It's going to be tough, honestly. I don't have the 100% solution. There are a couple spots where it could be done. They're not my property, so I don't want to say where those are, but yeah.
Don't you think a hotel is completely inimical to everything we've been talking about?
As the city employee, I need to be a little bit more diplomatic about how I say things, but the executive director of the North Market, whose job it is to look specifically at the market, has made fairly clear his opinions on where the market would see the value of a hotel right next to the market. And this is part of why we have Rick on the committee. Was that a diplomatic answer?
Actually, I'm a very undiplomatic person, so I don't really care about that so much. But I think a hotel is absolutely inimical. It's not going to provide the people buying the fresh produce that, thank goodness, you are talking about. It's not going to be part of participating in the community and the farmers market or any of that. So I guess I'm not asking a question. I'm just saying it's a really lousy idea, and I don't understand where it's coming from.
We came here to hear what you think are lousy ideas, so thank you for being very clear that you think it's a lousy idea, because we're full of them and we want to make sure we don't do them.
That was very nice.
I would like to understand where our ideas really are going to fit in this process, because this seems kind of like window dressing to me. The RFP is out, we're here, we're not going to be involved in commenting on any of the proposals. How are we going to be used, tapped into? And I have another question. If there are going to be more apartments and condos right next to the market, is that wishful thinking? Because a lot of apartments and condos were built that are to the southeast,
And maybe southwest too, with
yeah.
Line being
Yes.
built.
Has that markedly improved the market's volume?
So a couple things. Let me deal with the real estate market itself. When we looked at the vacancy rates in downtown and the surrounding neighborhoods about a year ago for residential, I think the vacancy rate for residential was 3%. So if there's and I thought I heard your concern was, are we going to build these and they're going to be empty? So when you got 3%.
My concern is that the market master suggests that having residents in the parking lot will increase the market's viability. And I was just wondering if there's any way to confirm that, since there were recently, within the last 10 years.
Do you want to talk about what your volume?
But go ahead,
change.
And condos that were built, and my understanding is they don't tend to shop at North Market. But maybe they do, maybe they have dramatically increased the sales.
I think we'll be at
Within what, how long? 10,000 downtown residents pretty soon. We're almost there, 8,000 some. There is no question that it helps. No question. I mean, just like before those were there, most folks were coming from Victorian Village, German Village, those surrounding areas. So do I think it helps? I do think it helps a great deal.
I mean, when our just from our traffic through the doors, no question. I think that that's the way to go. As far as
so
there's more people coming through the doors every year, and I mean what we need is more people in the community coming through the doors to support Fresh. And the bottom line is, I guess, we don't dictate what the merchant mix is inside. The market does it. The people coming through the doors dictate what we have in the market. That's really what it comes down to. And that is, as I said earlier on, that's a worldwide market issue with all public markets. I go to conferences, I study this, it's what I get paid to do. It's what I live. So going back to residents in front of us, there's no question that us becoming, having 1,000 people coming and going that live or work there, that do have a kitchen. I mean, that's going back to the hotel. I agree that would not be helpful. But having residents that have a kitchen, of course, that's going to be helpful.
So, and to your question about is this all window dressing and how is this going to be used? And it's a fair question. So so what we're going to do is we're going to go back and catalog all of the comments. We're going to take them into consideration as we evaluate the proposals. There are folks in the room who are with developers who I think came tonight so that they could hear exactly what the community is saying is important. And that's going to be part of how we evaluate. We're going to look at it and we're going to say, you know, what we're hearing from everyone is we want things that are going to, well, I won't say from everyone, the things that I took away from that, from the feedback that we got is the importance of having public space is really important. Doing things that we can to enhance the demand for fresh foods. Because you got to have demand to keep the merchants. Making sure that the market, doing things to make the market more accessible. Understanding those priorities helps me make a better decision. Because if I just sat in my office and sat in my little echo chamber and didn't come out and have this meeting, I would not have focused on the issues of access. And how is the development proposal going to deal with circulation and access? We were already thinking about the public space issues. We'd kind of gotten there on the hotel, but hearing these issues is what's really important. So are we going to open this up to a public referendum on what we do with the market? No. But having your input is really important to making sure we make the best decision that we can for the market, the neighborhood, and the community. Yes, ma'am. And you got to speak into the microphone, otherwise they don't record it.
Well, I'll just speak as a merchant, and I've been there since '98, and I have a merchant next to me who's been there longer. And I just wanted to say that I wouldn't have survived into 205 or later if it wasn't for all that new residential that went in. Now, I also was helped by the hotels too. But all of those apartments have kitchens, and believe me, a lot of North Market cookware is in those kitchens. And a lot of that cookware was also bought by parents who showed their young professional who was setting up in Columbus all of the different foods that they could buy, and here's the knife you need. And no, I still see it day in and day out. I see a real benefit from those apartments.
Thank you. And one thing I didn't mention, and I should also thank the merchants who came out tonight. The merchants are first and foremost in our mind as well. When we rolled this out, we made sure that the first people we talked to were the merchants. And we had a meeting where there's nothing more intimidating than standing in front of a group of people who actually do have rotten food at their fingertips and could throw it at you and bring up something this impactful. And they were really great in terms of it was a long meeting because they asked a ton of questions and really wanted to understand it. And again, for us, it's about understanding what's important to people so that we can kind of take all that in and make the best decision we can. So other questions? Yeah. I'll go here and then back.
Just I hope you're sensitive to the communication to the merchants because this is the busiest time of the year during your timeline, and it would be hard to pull them out to actually do a meeting. So if you could do some kind of other kind of communication through emails, et cetera, to all of them, through Rick, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, one further comment about what I said earlier. For us, the market has always been about people, about the individuals, about the individual merchants and the relationships that we've established over the years. And it's important that remain. There's a risk of being overwhelmed by concepts, because if it becomes a place of concepts, it's a food court. right? If it's the people and the connections that they make and understanding what that place and the families and relationships mean, then it's something that has value for community.
I completely agree, and I'm going to give you a percentage off the top of my head, and obviously I'm there every day of my life, pretty much.
Even if I just go get a cup of coffee on a weekend to walk around and say hi to farmers and things. And
I have to say that 90%, is it as owner operated as it once was?
No, but is it still, in my mind?
About 90%. I mean, and there's some that obviously started there, have grown in to other things and have multiple locations, which I wish that for everybody in there if that's what they want, where they can't be there every day. But on a day-to-day basis, I see at least 90% of the owners. And maybe they're not working in that stall all the time, but they're coming and going. And that's, you're right, it's 100. That's the difference between us and market districts and Lucky's, is that you can go in and Kay, Marty, Ben, and they're there. And that's the relationship part, and you can't go to a market district and see the same person twice. And thank goodness, that's one of the things that keeps us alive, is that experience and that relationship part. So that was a long-winded, I completely agree with you.
All right, so it's 6:40, we're talking about food, and we have none in the room, so I'm going to take one, maybe two more questions, and then we'll wrap up.
It's not really a question, but it's kind of like I feel like the market was the cure for cancer in that district, and because we were there, that's why, maybe it's because I was there. They built a convention center. Yeah. 7 years. They built a convention center. They built an arena. It just all happened. And hotels, yeah. But I just, want to agree with Barb. I hope we're worth the city's money, because I think we are an incredible feather in their cap. When you first came and met with us, I was really freaked out, like they're going to move us again. And I mean, I don't think that's out of the question, but I guess my concern is there any thought that the market would be moved out of that area?
So out of the area, absolutely not. And I think we actually say in the RFP that the market stays where it is. So,
I just don't want to be the cure for cancer in Franklinton.
No, we have other cures for the cure for cancer in Franklinton is the Columbus Idea Foundry and beer. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for being in the market for so long. I guess what I would say to you in terms of, is the market going to move? The answer is no. When we sat down and did kind of the blue sky overall, wow, what could you do? Did it come up? Yeah, we talked about it, and we said, you know what, it needs to be there. And it is, when you look at the district, the folks from Nationwide Realty may, or the convention center or the hotels may, want to look at me funny when I say this, but and I think they actually would all agree. The North Market really is the anchor of that area. It's not the arena.
For 140 years.
For 140 years. It's not the convention center. It's not the hotels. It's not, it's certainly not the bars on Park Street. Sorry. It's getting late. I'm getting hungry. I'm starting to lose my... if you asked me that question now, I'd give you a much more direct answer. So, yeah, it's going to stay put. Any last... Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, first off, I might leave this meeting tonight a little more convinced that perhaps some extra residential properties, say in front of the market, might have their practicalities. But I would like to emphasize that if there was extra space there for even more small businesses, merchants, and upstarts to start practicing running a business and showing the rest of the city, and especially any residents around, what they got, that, at least in my mind, that would be a more superior priority than even having additional houses. If that becomes a priority, then I am worried that we would homogenize that development to be more like a whole lot of other apartment complexes and premium places you find already all around the city, from Clintonville to downtown and everywhere in between.
Yeah. Thank you. Did you want to?
Well, there's a couple things. Agreed. I think some of the most important things that myself and the board and the market that need to come out of this for the market is some more space to do what we do, our mission, incubate and support local independent businesses. But equally as important is community space. We have no demo kitchen. We used to have a little, where we have a restaurant upstairs, we were able to do some demo and some chef's classes. It wasn't optimal, but it was better than nothing. We don't have that any longer. I'd love to have demo kitchens where we can have merchants doing classes 7 days a week, programming. That's very important. So equally as important as more merchant space, to us, I believe, is community space to be able to come over and learn and programming. So completely agree.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and for spending your time, for your dedication to the market. I want to thank Rick for helping out. Couple housekeeping items. If you didn't sign in when you came in, on the table in the back there are sign-in sheets. Put your email, we'll send you email updates. And all the information that we have, that we collect tonight, will be posted on the website, where you can find the RFP and all of the documentation, including a survey and a letter from the State Historic Preservation Office about the old graveyard and all kinds of fun stuff. But this will be posted there. If you go to columbus.gov/development, I think it's actually the first item listed on our webpage, and you can just click through and find all the materials. Again, thanks a lot. I'll stick around for a little bit if anybody has anything else they want to talk about.